Hey everyone, it's Robbie here with Muddy Beards. Today, I'm going to be building a custom battery box for my Jeep Cherokee. Because that's not good. Okay, so here's a situation here. For a while now, my battery's actually been unsecured, which is obviously not good when you're off-roading. And the reason why is because the stock battery box has, kind of the normal battery tie-downs. But the plastic battery box, plastic battery tray, actually broke over here on the side. And so the connection on that side, I couldn't use the bolt to tie down the battery, and so it's been kind of just sitting there. And actually my last wheeling trip, my battery was moving down enough that I ripped one of the ground wires out for my fan. So what I'm going to do is take out this old one, and what I'm going to be doing is building my own box out of some sheet metal that'll be a lot stronger and will also finally secure my battery down, because of safety. So I'm going to go ahead and take out this box, and I'm going to get started. You're going to want to disconnect the, there's like this battery temperature sensor that's down here towards the front of the vehicle. You want to take that out so you can actually slide out the battery temperature sensor. There's just a little button here that I push. And there it is. I can slide that through and take the whole box out. Alright, well the first step of my design is I need to find a base for my new battery tray that I'm going to make. If you notice, the stock, or the factory battery box, basically has like a base. It actually projects down so that it elevates the battery tray up, and it bolts down to, I don't know if you can see these, but it bolts down to these studs. It does that, I think, because it's designed to clear the inner fender wheel well here. If you didn't, elevate it a little bit, the battery would actually hit that. And also, I think, to avoid rubbing against the radiator hose. So I needed to find a solution to build a base for mine. And this is what I came up with. This is just a piece of material that I had laying around from a previous project. I think it's just 1.5 by 3. And what I did was I drilled holes. I measured out the studs down here and I drilled holes. And then what I did was, this fit down in there, is I drilled bigger holes so that I could actually put a socket through it, and I can actually bolt this down. So that's going to be my base, and so what I need to do is design a battery box that I can then attach to this so I can put my battery in it. And here is what I have thus far. It doesn't look like much from here, but essentially I just took some cardboard and I put my battery down here, and I started measuring out how I wanted this thing. And check this out really quick here. Essentially, my battery will just fit in it like this. And then this will move up like this. I have the little pieces that will bend here that sort of box it in, and then this comes up and will actually come across, and I can bolt it down to this side and essentially sandwich the battery down. See if I could do this with one hand here. So it basically looked like that. A fairly simple design, but I'm pretty happy with it. And so really the next step for me is to actually go ahead and trace out this template onto sheet metal and get it cut out and show you how I plan on bending it so I can actually get this box working. Alright, well here's the piece all cut out. You know, I mean, this is definitely not the best tool to use, I think, for this, but it's what I have. And I think the cool thing about this is that, you know, I can, you know, really show you guys how you can make things yourself even with, you know, minimal fabrication tools. I definitely don't have a surgeon's hand, so cutting these straight lines, you know, as best as I could, went back and cleaned it up with a flat disc, and it came out, you know, pretty much exactly how I needed it, following my little template here. And so the next step would be for me to actually reattach my template over here. So reattach my template, and what I need to do is start marking out, I already kind of started here, marking out where my bends are going to go from my template, so that I can actually get to bending this thing into the shapes that I need, which I'll show you here in just a second. So here's how I plan on doing this. I got my line drawn actually on both sides of my template here, my straight line drawn, and what I'm going to be doing is, again, this is not the most perfect way of doing things. If I had a metal brake or one of those hand brakes, I'm sure I could probably do this with a lot more precision, but this is what I got, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm only using 16 gauge, so it bends fairly easily, even using this method. And what I did was I lined up this line as best as I could with the very edge of my table. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this big piece of heavy flat bar. It's nice and heavy, and I'm going to put it right up against the line there. Okay, then I'm going to take some clamps. I'll try to clamp it as best as I can to the table. And so once I double check that this thing is perfectly lined up on the edge of the table, I can actually simply just bend down, either by hand or with a pair of vice grips. And I want this to be at 90 degrees, so I'm essentially going to bend it, put my little angle finder on it a couple times to make sure that it is exactly where I need it. So let's give this the old college try. It's going. It actually looks like it's bending how I want it to here, but it's definitely not the easiest thing to do without a brake. Alright, well, things aren't exactly going how I wanted them to. Turns out this is a lot harder to bend than I thought it would be. But you know, I'm learning here too. And so what I ended up doing here is I actually found this piece of angle iron that I actually put around the edge of the table. Got some bigger clamps, took my piece of flat bar, big piece of flat bar, and I clamped it down. And then what I've been doing essentially is I've been taking my other clips and I've been just kind of slowly, you know, tightening them and compressing this in just little by little until I'm really close now. I actually almost pretty much got the bend that I need. And so I think, you know, it's a lot of work, but I'm probably going to end up having to redo this process kind of over and over and over again to get the rest of the bends in until I can get it exactly where I want it. So I'm going to move on to some of the other bends, see where I'm at with this one, and then get a test fit in. Alright, well, starting to get my bend straight here. I'm figuring this out a little bit more. This is the first bend that I made, and it's, you know, again, not perfect, but using the angle iron, actually, instead of the edge of the wood bench, you know, I was able to, on this one, on this side, I think get a lot better bend. You know, it's pretty darn straight even. Then I bent the lip here, and then with these ones I could no longer put it over the table because these were sticking up, so basically I put them on the edge here, used the flat bar sort of as an edge, was able to clamp it on, and then basically just use my channel locks to bend them over. So it's been quite a learning curve. You know, having a brake would definitely be easier. Another thing maybe you could do is maybe take an angle grinder and score it maybe on one back side. That probably could have been a lot easier. But now I'm going to see how the battery fits. I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do with this piece. What I had planned to do was this piece is actually supposed to bend down across the top of the battery here, and then ideally there'd be a bolt hole through here and a bolt hole through here, and that is what would clamp the actual battery down. However, kind of what I realized is that once I get it down into the Jeep, you know, I'm not going to be able to take the battery out unless I somehow make this, you know, accessible. The reason why I don't want to go straight across on both sides, because I thought about that, is just kind of doing the little lip on both sides and then just putting a flat piece down. Well, the reason why is because of the radiator, and it gets awfully close on this side of the Jeep for it to stick out like that, especially with the way that I'm making it. So I hope it doesn't look too cheesy, but what I think I'm going to do instead is actually cut this straight off. And then what I'm going to do is I have some old hinges laying around, and I hope that it's not too cheesy, but I think it'll look okay. And essentially what I'll do is attach hinges to it so that I can, you know, pretty much just swing it in and out with hinges. So if I ever want to take the battery out, all I got to do is, you know, undo the bolt, swing this up, and you know, then I can take the battery out. So I'm going to get working on that next. Okay, so you can see how I now have the box actually inside here. I cut off the top piece here, and then what I did is I welded on these hinges. And now it opens, so I'll be able to put the battery in there, and it just barely clears that radiator hose. So now what I need to do is I need to figure out how I'm going to attach this box to this base. Okay, well, here is my solution. What I did was I just actually laid just a couple tack welds across the side on each side, and so my bottom piece, the piece that goes on the bottom, I just basically welded the box to. And so I also got it painted. There's how I flip it up with the hinges on it, which I actually think kind of look cool. And then I ended up drilling holes into the bottom of the battery tray as well, so that I could again access those bolts. And so essentially there's the bottom piece, and so that's what goes in and bolts in, and then I should be able to put the battery straight in and get everything all hooked up. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get this thing installed, get the battery in it, so I can show you the final product. And there she is. So I got the battery put in. Got my dirty fingers on it a little bit, but the bolt is in, securing it here from the side. You can't really see down here too well, but there it is. Really should clean up my wiring a little bit here, but it does clear the radiator, and it is in there solid. That thing's not going anywhere, and I'm not going to be pulling wires out on the trail anymore. So there's how you can make a very simple battery box, custom battery box for your Jeep Cherokee XJ. So thanks for tuning in to Muddy Beards. If you liked what you saw, please give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out. Check out some of our other videos on our channel, and we'll see you on the trail.